All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Kraken Interviews. In this episode, we have a conversation with someone by the name of Awakened Adam. He was a 9/11 first responder. He claims that there was no plane that hit the Pentagon building, with evidence to back it up as well too. If anyone would like to see that evidence, he would be more than happy to share it with you. His Instagram is at Awakened Adam, no spaces, no capitals. Awakened AWAKENEDADAM. And I do have to say, whether you agree with him or not, throughout this episode, we touch on many different things aside from that as well, too. The, corruption, the esoteric aspect of things, direct energy weapons, and what have you. And I do have to say, whether you agree with him or not, I would highly suggest you hear him out. So that's enough of me, and enjoy. Cheers. All right, and we are recording. So everyone, I would like to thank all of you who have tuned in or tune in down the road. This is a very good friend of mine, Awakened Adam. He was a 9/11 first responder, and honestly, he doesn't really need much of an introduction just because of how outspoken he's been. He's challenged to debate Mitch McConnell on Instagram, things like this. And of course, Mitch McConnell did not reply. So, sir, thank you so much for coming on. And let's kick this off. So we have a lot to cover here, but let's start with 9/11. First off, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
What did you, and you can break it down in any way that you like, in any order that you like. What did you see that day that was so off? Like what was the process there?
Well, let me tell you first and foremost, and you'll find that I'm going to start every single conversation like this moving forward. My intention is to expose George Bush and to expose Dick Cheney and the military-industrial complex, which has been starting false flag. Whew, I got to get this mouth working. Starting false flag operations for quite some time. And so, the things that I talk about on this podcast might trigger some people. And if that's the case, if I upset you, if I have hurt you, this podcast is likely to go far and wide. Please know that with all of my heart, that it was not my intention. My intention is to simply hold people accountable. And I should also state before we really jump into it that I have kind of a multifaceted perspective that is very unique. And I would almost say it's probably just, for me, I'm probably the only person that can say this. Obviously, I was a first responder at the Pentagon on 9/11. I've got multiple military documents to prove that. I've got a testimony out there. I've got pictures. But what I also have, what several people aren't aware of, is a working experience with a company called Pratt and Whitney. There are two types of jet engines that go in a Boeing 757 commercial airline. One's a Rolls-Royce, and the other one's made by Pratt and Whitney. And so, as fate would have it, I happened to get assigned on a special assignment up in Londonderry, New Hampshire, at Pratt and Whitney's main facility where they store their parts prior to going out to be basically assembled at their assembly plants, their assembly locations, I guess you could say. So I am intimately aware of airline parts, specifically engine parts. I was certified to be a quality inspector of engine parts. I was really kind of a senior level mid supervisor. So my boss was running the whole show for the second shift. And if he was gone, then I was in charge. And so I had to really kind of know my shit. Pardon me. I don't know if I can cuss or not, but
Oh, you can say whatever you like, whatever you like.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was an infantryman at one point in time. But so in the absence of my leadership, I was accountable for quite a bit. And so to say that I'm intimately aware of jet engine parts, I mean, obviously I'm by no means going to get out and start creating a jet engine for you, but prior to going to those places, they had to get inspected by a person such as me or the team that was there. So if any first responders out there that also have 30 days of 12 hours a day on site, that also are that intimately aware of jet engine parts, if you are out there, by all means, I'd love to chat. But that's my perspective. So the question I believe you said is what did we see? What did we see when we went on site?
If it's cool to explain from the beginning of the day or from whatever you deem to be the most important part of the day when things started to, again, the planes hitting the towers and then leading after that.
Sure. So we were over at Fort Myer, Virginia. This is right across from Arlington Cemetery. I don't know if you have the ability to pull maps up or put graphics in, but you could probably easily see how close it is to the Pentagon. Well, my company was over there. We every single year participated in a military show called the Spirit of America, and the Army would select a city or two cities, and basically my unit would cover a variety of things. It was basically like a military pageant, and my company kind of served as the kind of the grunt work. We would kind of do all the moving and things for everybody that was going on. But we were rehearsing that morning over at Conmy Hall. It's the very back of Fort Myer, and all of a sudden, just these fire trucks, everything started it just kept flying by. Things were going, and it was like, what in the hell is going on? And suddenly the first sergeant, gets a phone call, and he kind of has this look on his face, and hangs up, and he said, formation, and his words were, guys, the United States is under attack. And it's like, holy shit. I mean, it's obviously happening right by us. So we immediately got on the buses, and we were the one company in my regiment. I was an Alpha Company, 3rd U.S. Infantry, and it was actually the Presidential Escort Company. It's the oldest active infantry company in the United States Army, still to this day.
Wow.
So we were designed, and at that point in time, we were stationed in Fort McNair. We were the only company in our regiment that was over there. And we were designed to basically hold a variety of roles. We were an infantry company, so we were prepared to fight to the last man to defend the United States, the capital region. We also had presidential security details to do White House missions, any type of, detail on the White House lawn. Maybe there was a foreign dignitary. We were always training for something, be it ceremonial. I buried over 1,000 people in Arlington Cemetery. So we had that capacity as well. We were really kind of just a unit that did it all. The old guard is the Army's ceremonial contingency.
Right.
But, so we had to get back to our company. Well, getting back into DC proved to be very difficult that day. And I'll never forget, we were crossing, I believe it was the 14th Street Bridge. It was one of those bridges, I forget which one it was, but there was a suspicious package. And the bus driver stopped, and he's like, hey, he called the first sergeant over. He's like, what is that? And the first sergeant literally right then and there had to make a snap call. And I mean, think about all the people that were killed by IEDs in these military conflicts. Well, the first sergeant had everybody get to the other side of the bus and do one of those numbers.
Right.
And so we sped past. Thankfully, obviously, nothing happened, but we got really into the traffic. Everybody was trying to get out of DC. We had received reports that there were random, just kind of rogue attacks going on. So we were really just trying to get back to where we had, got weapons, everything back in our company, and to kind of start figuring out what was happening. But so we hit gridlock, and it was funny. This whole entire company of infantrymen in their PT uniforms, that's what we rehearsed in, basically got off these huge buses, and we were all kind of just running through the streets of DC.
Sorry, brother, if I may ask very quickly, had the first plane, or had both planes hit at this point, or just the first one?
At this point in time, we had no knowledge of what happened. And so this was the Pentagon. So it was other things had already kind of been going on at that point in time.
Okay.
And so we just got notified because literally, not even a couple miles away, if that. I mean, it's really close. I'd be surprised if it's even a mile away from Fort. No, it's actually not. But yeah, we had no idea. And so, we got back to our company, and this is where the bullshit really starts to get crazy. And I'm telling you things that nobody knows. Like, this is all brand new. I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag.
Please.
So we get back, and I was a private that was just full of piss and vinegar. I'd gotten promoted during basic training. I went through airborne school. I became a paratrooper. I got up to Washington, D.C. Originally, I was going to be a Ranger in the Army. I was actually down at Fort Benning trying out for the Rangers. And we got there, and the recruiters was like, or not the recruiter, but the cadre there was like, listen, we don't need infantrymen. So all you guys are going to go to needs of the Army. And that point in time, they were sending people to these miserable bases. And so my buddy happened to just find this old guard recruiter, and this old guard recruiter was like, I've got spots on Alpha Company. That's the oldest company. And he sold us all the way on this, infantry company being elite, but I was just full of it and ready to go. And so they're like, we need volunteers to go out, and we were going to secure the perimeter of Fort McNair. And I was like, absolutely, I'm on. And go to the weapons room, check out the weapon,
Right.
and they hand me a magazine that's empty.
An empty magazine.
Yes.
This, if I may ask, is this at any point in time from what your training was this ever protocol in a real scenario with an empty magazine? Or
Well, here, absolutely not. At that point in time, I mean, I'd like to say the United States Army has put every single person in that company through infantry basic training and advanced individual training. So
right.
if we are officially in a line company, whether that be an infantry line company or the old guard or any company, they've given us a stamp of approval. So at that point in time, I was a pretty good shot. And I looked at the arms room specialist and I'm like, specialist, excuse me, this magazine has no rounds.
Yeah.
I said the military district of Washington, the post commander at the time, his name was General Jackman, had not authorized them.
Really?
Which was hysterical because from my base, you could walk out and literally we were set to protect kind of the seawall of Fort McNair. I can show you where Fort McNair is on a map, but we were set to protect the seawall and we were kind of set to protect the two front gates. And I got over to the seawall and you could literally see smoke billowing from the Pentagon, and we were not authorized to use ammunition. And so we were walking with the MPs.
Sorry, before you go on, brother,
cut me off anytime.
Is there any training protocol of any type that you can remember that instated there will be, in a real life scenario, you will have the gun, but you will not have the ammunition? Was there any?
I can't see that. And I remember to this day, because I'll be honest with you, September 11th was the day that I learned that there was absolutely no way I could ever stay in the United States Army. And it started at that moment when they said, you have not been authorized to use ammunition. I remember I got out and I was walking with this MP. This MP, she was a really sweet girl. I can't remember her name, but I was like, so I hope to God your 9mm has rounds. And she said, I've been authorized and given 2 rounds.
What?
Yeah. So the United States is under attack, supposedly. Right. I can see smoke billowing from the Pentagon. There's intelligence reports indicating that I've heard, as we're barreling ass and coming back, people are saying that there are these rogue attacks. These are, who knows where they got this information. And of course, I can't name names, but it was chaotic and people were saying these things and we're not given ammunition.
So that's strike number 1 in your mind, as in like, what the hell?
Kind of. Yeah, well, that was what's his name? Strikes 2 and 3. You're fucking out, like Kenny Powers. Like, right. And I said to this girl, I was like, if anything pops off, I'm running. I remember that. I literally was like, if people start to engage us in any way, I'm taking off. I'm not even gonna play this game. But so we got there. We got dispersed. We pulled security. Well, in the mid-afternoon, we had realized that, or we heard that we were coming down on orders to basically go to the Pentagon that day and to just kind of serve in any capacity that we were needed. And so I originally got on site after the attack had happened, but it was the same exact day. Everybody in my unit was still, we were serving in a first responder capacity, trying to find survivors at the beginning. And that was the way it was. It started at 6 in the night and it went till 6 in the morning. And the next day we kind of found out that until further notice, we were basically 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. We were going to serve in this capacity. And most days I was inside that building, and I can back everything I'm saying with military documentation.
Which buildings are you referring to?
Pentagon.
Pentagon, got you. Okay. If I may ask, if you could be a little more specific, what part of the Pentagon, if you can disclose that?
Absolutely. So I literally walked straight into the damage. I really didn't go very far outside of that corridor that was damaged completely.
Was there any? I don't mean to jump too
Oh,
quickly.
you're good.
Was there anything when you witnessed the damage, anything that seemed off? Was there anything that was kind of like, something doesn't make sense based on how, well protected the Pentagon is supposed to be?
From day one, absolutely. Um, and it's so funny. What really set me off on this journey, I've been studying this stuff for a long time, but what really got me to a point where it was just like, no, I got to really look into this more. Um, every year on September 11th, I get an email from one of my buddies, and he sent me this document, and this kind of independent reporter was going around and just talking to people. And there was this guy in my unit, and I'm not going to say his name because he said this, but he was a legend. I mean, there's seriously like so many stories. It's just he was just an amazing dude, and he was just his own kind of just, I don't know. I could go on and on, but in the middle of this thick document, this PDF, it said his name, and it said, that he told the reporter that he's like, there's just no way that this doesn't look at all like a plane hit the building. And I'm laughing right now just thinking about some of the stories. But day one, absolutely on site.
So just to clarify, there's a transcript of him saying to a reporter, "There's no way it went down the way they're saying."
He just said, "Well, if I had to remember it, I've got it. To be honest with you, I need to ask if I can use that because I want to lean on that document just a little bit because."
But not even
he said that,
but just a paraphrase of what he said. It doesn't have to be exact words.
He just looked at the reporter and he said, "The damage doesn't look like anything hit this thing." I mean, literally, cameras don't even do it justice. There's one picture where some people, there's like a kind of like a caterpillar in the background, one of those kind of earth movers,
Right.
and there's a couple guys holding the flag. I can send you the picture, but I could literally take a softball and stand on the hole and like underhand it,
Right.
and hit the others like past like where it was just, it made no sense. There's absolutely zero wingspan damage, and where I really I drive everything home is just, I know what a Pratt and Whitney jet engine looks like. It's huge, it's gigantic, and there's absolutely zero sign of that. And of course, if you get online, there are going to be people that say, "Well, look at this. This is a jet engine. There are some airline parts here," and it's like, well, let's get into the dimensions of a Boeing 757: wingspan, jet, length, width, and that thing apparently hits the wall going over 500 miles an hour. So there's absolutely no sign of a jet engine, period, end of story. Well, let's just say, for example,
There's no sign of a jet engine at the Pentagon crash site.
That's what I lean all the way on, brother.
Okay.
That's what drives it home for me. My experience working with jet engines, the trajectory in the picture doesn't align. I've got a PDF basically with all sorts of mathematical equations that pilots understand that I never in a million years could understand. These are former military pilots saying that the angles that they apparently flew at couldn't have taken out the light posts, and then also did damage to the transponder, and then also hit the plane that way. It's crazy.
Also, weren't there also a very large amount of cameras coincidentally within that same angle that were just so happened to be out due to maintenance, or am I mistaken?
Oh, well, the story on the cameras is that the FBI, the very same day, the only camera that I can find, this is another thing, you're not going to tell me that technology, even in 2001, was this horrible, where the United States military hub is on like this dial-up, like AOL back in the 90s. I've got slow motion there. All you see is this little white.
I just want to say very quickly, people who are the audience who watch the show regularly, they understand what we delve into, and we understand fully on the show here that they had this type of tech all the way back, arguably in the 50s and 60s. So just to add to your point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've even studied this, but the World's Fair, look at those buildings. They took those buildings apart. Dr. Julie Wood. Oh, have you ever heard of her?
No, I haven't. Julie Wood, no.
I'm telling you, this woman is not swinging a medal of freedom around like a helicopter. This woman is as brilliant as they come. She's got her doctorate. She's a professor. Every single possible thing that you can analyze about the Twin Towers, even the seismic ratings, she did it. She's got, and this is where the free energy weapons start to show up.
Right.
She has a video, and I can send this to you. And in fact, if anybody wants to, go on Gaia and just search her name. There's so much on there. There's one in particular episode where you can literally see, if this is the Twin Towers and it kind of does its thing, there's this like 700-foot piece of construction that just evaporates.
Huh.
Yeah. And so she gets into heat analysis. She gets into everything.
That sounds like something called programmable matter. But yeah, that sounds like some direct energy. Yeah. Anyways, please carry on.
Yeah.
But actually, sorry, before you go on, is there anything that you or that you'd be willing to speak on? Any former fellow soldiers that saw the towers go down, or no?
What do you mean, the towers or the Pentagon, or because I wasn't up in New York, I was in DC.
Right. The towers.
Did any of could you say that again?
Sorry.
Any soldiers that I know, or
any indication of a possible explosion on either the Pentagon or the towers, direct energy weapon of any kind of that could have caused this massive explosion?
Well, and that is where I lean on the experts. And like I said, if you go to YouTube, even you're going to see hours. This woman gives presentations with photos. It's absolutely incredible. And when you compare it, of course, to the mainstream media, which there was a number of mainstream media anomalies that day. I even had footage of CNN. The one time they were honest, which they're going to be out of business soon. Thank you, James O'Keefe. But this reporter's like, doesn't look like there's a plane there. And then there's just so much media. It's crazy. But to answer your question, no, I am just, that's one area of expertise where I would actually lean on you more when it comes to the energy weapons. But I always say, just watch anything with Dr. Julie Wood. She's awesome. So
absolutely. So if so going towards the Pentagon, was there anything else there at that crash site that you noticed that really, even that Julie Wood had said, that really kind of, I guess we could say, was anomalistic or unexplainable? I mean, so there was no jet engine there, right? Based on
well, there's no wingspan damage, which I have screenshots, and here's where I'm starting to really kind of get into. There's a lot of theories. Of course, everybody has their theory, but what I do, I take screenshots and I have video footage, and I stop everything. I show stills of the Twin Towers, and that's 200 feet, split second, cuts through it like bone through butter, blows out the backside. Look at the dimensions of the Pentagon ring, and not only that, I have literally just messing around just yesterday. I'm pretty sure that I've exposed an author like that has Hollywood ties. His dad was a writer. He went to Harvard. All these elitist schools. And he had all these grants and stuff. But he wrote a major book on 9/11, and all these people say that it drove 300. I've got so many engineers on file, and on record. I've got authors on record saying that debris drove 300 feet into the Pentagon, and that's just not true. I can show you pictures right now you could Google them, and it's not true. And if I must say, I think the reason that I'm dumbfounded, of course, and I have to remind myself, you have this perspective of being right in there. You also have this perspective of working inside these facilities that house these plane parts, but nobody has that. But everything that's going on right now, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but the globalist elite can manipulate us with ease, with total ease.
Right.
It's almost sad. So I'm right now kind of just going through the internet, and I'm straight up, I'm screenshotting everything I can. I'm saving every article I can. I'm pulling everything, because once I expose the greatest crime that's ever been committed,
right,
And let me be frank, I'm basically going to be pulling testimony from every angle. I have testimony right now from a woman that was literally in the portion of the Pentagon that blew up. She literally says, I've got this video testimony, that she thought she activated a bomb with her computer. She even goes so far to say that she never saw jet engine, anything, no jet parts, no.
Oh.
No, this woman goes so far as saying that she's like, nothing smelled like gas. There's no gas on anybody. It's crazy, dude. Like, believe me, this is the greatest crime that the United States has ever attempted to pull off. And I'll even discuss why, I think it happened in the first place, and how it kind of goes with what we're doing today.
I was going to ask what the purpose or the secretive strategic purpose would be to make a certain part of the Pentagon blow up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me say, I'm saving everything right now because I think that there's a lot of different levels. And David Ray Griffin, this guy he's written so many books, and let me just show you something really quick while I have one of his books present.
Please, yeah.
Bullshit takes the bus right now. Okay, notes and bibliography. This is notes and bibliography. So this guy spent years researching this stuff. I mean, absolute years. So that's where a lot of the 9/11 research exists, and we just don't like to read nowadays. I don't know what it is. We kind of just want everything served up. So, my journey is just to basically present all the information, present all the testimonies by pilots, by everybody, and then drive it all home. It just says, where are the jet engines? The jet engines, you have to look at the evidence, but then everything that I bring forward as far as testimony goes is just about the Pentagon. That doesn't even get into the ocean. I mean, like David Ray Griffin in this book, I brought this one down here. He lists 40 absolute smoking gun, just bullet point. Here you go. These points should start an investigation. And so he's got several different, theories about, how complicit was the government in this.
Right.
And my theory is, I just know George Bush was complicit. I mean, I'm not going to stop. I mean, literally, I turned in my real estate license. I just started a company last year. I put it on hold. I can't stress that to you enough. Like, I am so certain about this that I'm not going to shut up. If I have to, get some little bullshit part-time job like I have right now, I work in a warehouse. I get there at 7 a.m. I get out at 3, and I got the rest of the damn evening to do research. I'm not going to go away, and I'm basically going to become a walking oracle, and I'm just going to keep talking shit. And I'll tell you, I'm starting to finally get the big breaks that I needed. And, I just, when I knew that this was going to happen, I said to myself, what do I do with all this?
Right.
I think it can be argued that the FBI is under tyrannical control.
Right.
You can't tell me that Joe Schmo, Adam, former infantryman, had some time on site and, had some time working with jet engines that I can formulate all this information and just put it in front of everybody. I mean, there's so many levels of just government just being horribly complicit in this. So,
and if I may ask, before moving on, when you were at the Pentagon crash site, was there anyone or anything that indicated we got to keep quiet about this, or did they just kind of play it off as a plane hit the Pentagon, even though there's no evidence a plane hit?
So this is no joke. They told us that we were going to have to sign non-disclosure agreements. I never signed one. I don't remember signing one. So yeah. And I'd like to even bring up something. I've reached out to a lot of people because everybody says, well, why don't you just go talk to some of the guys in your unit? Maybe they can come forward.
Right.
I've done that. And in all fairness, I'm going to say that 2 people that I've talked to don't agree with me. And one of them was my sworn mortal enemy. It's so funny. I I always said, I'm going to tell. I want to tell the story about what happened, but I'm not going to. When he first reached back out to me after not hearing from me or I hadn't seen him since I got out of the army, and then all of a sudden, kind of started to make its way through the ranks. It's like Eisenberg starting some shit, and then
If
he,
I,
of course,
sorry, brother, if I may ask, what's the, just so the audience gets an understanding, what's the devil's advocate to what you're claiming? I mean,
oh,
personally, we know each other well. I fully believe you,
yeah,
but just to play devil's advocate for the sake of the show,
I love it.
what's the other side of
Well,
it that they're claiming?
and before I came forward with all this, I had to play devil's advocate. You know, he
Right,
said I saw plane parts, and if you look, obviously the mainstream media is, wonderful at making these parts look, and of course they got the American Airlines logo up there. I want to note that absolutely none of those plane parts has fire damage, and I am off. I had the kind of authority to say that because I know what damaged airline parts look like, and so you can just tell that they're mangled and they're fucked with. None of them have any sort of semblance of any kind of fire damage. Um, so they say, I saw some plane parts, and I always say, well, let me ask you this. How much experience do you have working with a plane part? None. Well, how do you know it's a plane part? Well, I saw a door. Really? Well, how come I can show you pictures of the incident within minutes after it just happened before the collapse of the Pentagon wall took place, and
right.
there's no plane parts visually. And then even after they fell, there's nothing. And so anytime that that gets brought to light and somebody says, I saw some plane parts, I go back to the dimensions. Do you know how big
Mm.
a Boeing 757 is and how many people can fit in that? And this one guy that I knew was like, well, I saw a chair with blood on it. I'm like, do you know how many chairs are in a Boeing 757? There's a lot of them.
Right.
Um,
And also, if
it,
I
it's
may ask, did any of these
yeah.
people sign NDAs, which is why they may be coming out saying the opposite of what they saw? Or you're
I
not
don't think so. Yeah, I
sure?
don't
Okay.
think so. But the majority of people fall into two camps, and they're all very supportive of me. They say, I've compartmentalized it, which is actually a symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot
Right.
of people don't realize that you don't necessarily have to be on a battle zone, getting shot at, killing people to, suffer. And so, I want to say if I don't say it, I'm going to lose my mind later. But if you were there in any sort of capacity, talk to somebody. I was a fucking mess for a long time, and I just didn't know why. And I paid the price for it. And I hate to say it, a lot of other people paid the price for it. I'm no angel, but I digress.
Well, first
But
off, I just want to say on behalf of myself and my audience, that's a very humble thing to it. Not too many people can admit that publicly, especially on a show. You know what I mean? So I'm sure
well,
myself and my audience would thank you for that.
absolutely. Well, there's if there's one thing that I've learned, and I went through a pretty intense spiritual awakening. I would love to talk about that if you're interested. But
Absolutely.
there's strength and transparency. If
Right.
it's your truth, don't be afraid to stand in it. But
Right.
everybody falls into the compartmentalized camp. I don't really remember. It's kind of hazy, or they fall in the I didn't see shit camp.
Mm.
And I have a feeling that when people start to see the kind of waves that this makes,
Right.
um, I'm gonna catch some shit. But like I said, if anybody wants to get put in a pine box 6 feet beneath the earth in a debate, let's go. Like I've been studying this for over 15 years. Um, so yeah, I think that more people will eventually come out. Um,
And
but
one
I take tremendous pride. This is probably an ego thing, but I feel in a way like I kind of ascended Everest first. I was the first responder because other people have come out and said some shit, but nobody on site there has said anything. And you know, and Julie Wood and this other woman, unfortunately, I can't remember her name. It's on Gaia. It's a wonderful talk. They talk about the way that this event makes you second guess yourself and how psychologically it just fucks you so bad. So yeah, I spent a lot of time second guessing, and just I think we've all placed a lot of faith and trust in our government. I
right.
know I have.
Right.
My mom's side of the family, they had 8 people serving in World War II. One of them was killed. On my dad's side of the family, my grandfather narrowly escaped at Pearl Harbor with his life. My dad was blown up in Vietnam 3 months in. I witnessed a false flag operation. I had a cousin serve in the Navy, and I still have immediate family, and I can't even talk about it. I'm serving today in very high capacity places. And so after that, and after burying 1,000 people in Arlington and losing one of my best friends, he was killed by an IED in Baghdad. This is real to me. I am playing for keeps, and you know, I'm not going to stop. And that's just all she wrote. I know what's right. I know what's wrong. And my soul contract, my very reason for being here is to expose this. And so, the bottom line is that in a lot of ways, these people, and we could even get into the esoteric here. We could talk about, the ascension from third to fifth dimensional consciousness, how the timelines are ending, all these things. But these systems are falling, and they're going to get desperate. And they're going to do whatever they can. But ultimately, it goes back to just a series of goalposts changing events over time where, the elite keep doing this, keep doing this, keep doing this. And I just think that September 11th was the beginning. I think that was chapter one of the same story that we're living out today with this current situation, this global situation that we're in. So, and I feel like I could comment a lot on it.
And I know we all appreciate that. One more thing before moving on to other things you wanted to discuss as well too. You said there was a woman in the part of the Pentagon that exploded, or she said looked more like an explosion from the inside, if I'm not mistaken, rather than a plane hitting it.
I will send you this testimony. It's so funny. Some of my followers gave me a hard time. So yes, in fact, she was right there in the thick of it, and she literally talks about how she had her child with her. She couldn't even find her child, and she was like helping people up, and then she finally found her child. And then she even goes so far to state that she wants a grand jury. And she straight up, I'm telling you, it's right on YouTube. I'm like, whoa, hello, yeah, dude. And so I'll send it to you. But I have recently linked up with a pretty big member of the truth community. And I kind of presented him with all this. And, we were talking on the phone, and I could kind of I could tell that he got it. And I could tell that he understood you. If you're an empath, which most of us truthers are, because we have to be,
right?
We're good at discerning what's bullshit and what isn't, because we have to sift through. I remember you even made a comment not too long ago, but just how much information we have to sift through to find the gold that we're looking for.
Right.
But yeah, it's a litany, dude. And this guy wrote, I think, 10 books on it. He even went so far as to picking apart the 9/11 Commission report and finding all the errors. I've got that book in the other room.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, allegedly the 9/11 Commission was also used to justify the surveillance on.
Yeah, I mean, these are just two. But yeah, so ultimately, I spent a lot of time. You talk about the justifications. I spent a lot of time thinking it was just a war to enrich, the elite and to settle some scores, maybe that Bush Senior didn't settle. But right after that, here comes the Patriot Act. And of course, they named something that's so infringing on our laws, the Patriot Act.
Right.
It says Patriot, it must be good. It must be good. Well, the Patriot Act is still in play. And that gives people the right to go crazy. I mean, look what Edward Snowden said. He's gone still.
Right.
Which, it's unbelievable the reach that the government has over us. But so they keep everybody in a scared state. Well, what happens when you're scared? You're easily manipulated. That's a Nikola Tesla thing. That's energy, frequency, and vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Getting everybody all pissed off at the people of the Islamic faith, which I know so many wonderful people that are Muslim, and there's going to be crazies in every single religion. That's just the way it works.
Right.
But getting people all stirred up, the media even said that the message was always just
hammer the fear.
This war message. We're not going to be messed with. We're not going to be messed with. And so you get everybody fired up. We go to war. I don't even know how many days it was after we officially declared war. that George Bush was standing on that battleship with the mission accomplished sign behind him. But I believe he was, I don't know if he was Colonel or General Wesley Clark. I mean, there's testimony out there. He said that there was 9 days after the Pentagon was hit and all these things happened, there were these multiple military campaigns lined up. The whole 9 yards, you know, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. It's like 9 days after this happened. And he has a testimony out there that, you know, September 20th, you know, they had all these military campaigns just ramped up, you know, so the goalposts get moved. If you look at who got rich and the completely unconstitutional ways that we went to war, there's a great book. It's called The $3 Trillion War. It's by a guy named Joseph Stiglitz, and there's a co-author as well. Unfortunately, I don't remember their name, but this guy won a Nobel Peace Prize for, you know, economics. He knows his shit. He's very smart. You know, incriminating just everything about the Bush administration. 98% of the contracts that went out, I believe, to prepare us for war were to companies that were like given to the Bush administration. It's like some astronomical figure. What
was it? Enron with Cheney there?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
the no bid Iraq contracts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a litany of stuff, but you know, all these things are happening. You know, we're in the Middle East where, you know, General Shinseki, I believe, you know, he was the Joint Chief of Staff at the time. I think he went on record saying, you know, if we do this, it's going to cost trillions. It's going to cost so much collateral damage. It's going to be impact generations to come. The debt is going to be just astronomical.
Right.
And he was right. And I, of course, have no way of proving this, but he retired soon after all this. And I mean, I marched in his retirement ceremony. I was on the parade field. So I don't think it was very long after that he was kind of scooted out and sent on down the line. But, you know, here in, you know, we're still fighting these wars. Well, what happens in, you know, 2006, 2007? You know, here come iPhones.
Right.
You know, here comes these apps. Here comes this technology that we are now addicted to.
Right.
I mean, I think that's not even up for debate. So here comes technology, and here comes the ability for the government to pry in on that technology. Well, then, you know, what comes down the line, you know, eventually apps, all these phones, you know, all these other things. And so, you know, the algorithms that exist on all of us, I'm absolutely 1,000,000% convinced that somewhere, somehow, Google, any of these companies, I mean, these tech companies are the most enriched companies in the world. They've got dossiers on all of us. They've got extensive information on all of us. And that's why, I mean, I think, honestly, they've just been in this huge data collection point for all these years, just so they could say, okay, you know, there's got to be some type of algorithmic measurement to where it's like, okay, let's kick off this agenda. Now let's kick off this agenda. And so a lot of people don't realize that the forces we're fighting right now go back to the days of Samaria. I mean, this goes back to the Egyptian priests, for crying out loud. So they've got the game mastered. And furthermore, this is, you know, somewhere where you could start to really chime in. This gets into, like, you know, other races, you know, other beings, other things, the Anunnaki, you know, all these different things, and the bloodlines that are supposedly here to control us. I mean, we could go down so many rabbit holes. It's literally insane. But you know, they hand us this technology, which gives them the ability to pry into our lives even more, to record us. You know, I've got video footage of Boris, you know, over in England, you know, talking about the future and how everything in every room and every house is going to be equipped with the smartphone, the smart TV. We're going to be able to listen in on everything. I mean, it's 1984, and you know, I was listening to a David Icke talk, and he basically talked about the connections to 1984 and the people that are writing these types of books, Brave New World. You know, they were basically just trying to warn people. I think they had these connections. These Rockefeller connections, I believe it was. I mean, there's so many things out there, and if I'm going to mention that man as well, I would definitely recommend to your viewers, if they haven't already done it, to watch Escape the Matrix on Gaia.
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of them have, actually, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I did want to ask though. with regards to like looking now at the big picture with what you've been through, your spiritual enlightenment, awakening, and all that. When you look at, for example, Biden withdrawing troops from Afghanistan, the date being pushed from May 1st to obviously September 11th, what's your, as a former soldier, what's your perspective on that? And at the same time, is there anything that you see from a, I guess, an intuitive perspective that makes you like kind of think this is not right, something's off here?
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. I wasn't aware that that was the plan, and I would be happy to offer my opinion on what I think is happening right now. But as a soldier, I think that's good. We've been there way too long. I always said,
Just to make it, just to give you the clear picture, before Trump had negotiated with the Taliban and had promised that all American soldiers would be out by May 1st of Afghanistan. Biden now said it's not doable. We're going to now pull them back on September 11th. The Taliban said, listen, if we see any American soldiers after May 1st, we're going to consider them as hostile. We don't care. We made a deal with Trump. That's it, right? So
yeah.
what do you, like, from a logistics standpoint, do you think there's an issue with them not being able to withdraw on May 1st? I mean, a lot of people are saying, why push it back to September? You're only risking more American lives there. Like, what's your
Risking lives? Yeah, risking lives, wasting resources. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit, as a former 4-year service member in the Army, the military doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense, and so I could totally see them just being like, really slow with the logistical side of it. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was some type of low key just move there, just to try to drag things out, to try to make the process even worse. And the funny thing is, if you really think about it, isn't the left opposed to war? Like, shouldn't
right,
they want to get them the hell out of there?
right,
Yeah,
right.
I'll tell you, I'm of the opinion, especially when we're this many $1 trillion into debt, that we've got no business continuing to do anything on any other parts of the world, especially places we've been now for nearly 20 years.
Now, what's your perspective when honestly, it's not even people, it's more so the mainstream media. But what's your perspective when the argument is, well, if the Americans leave Afghanistan entirely, it's only going to open up more dominance for the Taliban and for more terrorists? Do you take the perspective of, listen, it's not our business, or do you take the perspective of we should kind of maybe keep some people there, like some soldiers?
That's the one thing that I learned in my terrorism class when I went to the University of Louisville. You can't protect everything.
Mm, right.
I tell my followers right now, the one thing that I'm actually doing is I'm removing a lot of the stuff that I don't want to say the C word or the V word. I don't even want to go there right now, but I'm removing a lot of that stuff from my page because I don't want to get it pulled. But what was the
Right.
question again? I was thinking about something. Say
Oh
that
no,
last.
being a former soldier, your perspective of seeing the withdraw, like of whether or not
Yes.
people were, the mainstream media is arguing, well, we should leave some
Oh,
soldiers there
there
because
you go.
it's going
Sorry.
to open a vacuum for the
Yeah.
terrorists. Yeah.
I think American service members have paid with their blood for far too long.
Mm,
And so, I hate to say it, the world's a dangerous place. And, we live, both of us, you and I, we live in, you being up north, but me being down here, we're very fortunate to say we live in the places we live, even in the face of all the shit that's happening right now. Afghanistan, there's I have friends who are from there, dear friends.
mm.
There are some safe places there, but there are also some very dangerous places there. And so you can't control the whole world. And at this point, I think we've proven that, I mean, what are we to gain there? And of course, Jesse Ventura brought this to mind, the vein of lithium, all the lithium that is in that region.
Right.
He kind of talked about that pretty hardcore. I haven't really
By
studied
the way,
that.
apparently there was a Stargate there too.
Really?
In Iraq, there was a Stargate in Iraq, which was what caused apparently, allegedly, it's the true reason, but I don't, it's difficult to substantiate that. That's the only problem. But
Yeah.
I did with, if you'd be willing to jump into it, because I think you have a great perspective on this. I'm totally cool with speaking about it. What's your perspective on COVID? If you're willing to jump into that, because again, anything except for QAnon, I can
Yeah.
cover.
Oh, we got this. So my Instagram is Awakened Adam. There, I have posted several videos on what what we are capable of what we are technologically capable of.
Right.
So COVID, you ever seen those Russian dolls? I think they're porcelain. There's one inside another, inside another, inside another.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's COVID.
You think so?
And I think ultimately it's a series of agendas that go together and basically just rein the entire world into a transhumanistic state of control. The UN Agenda 21. Look at all the stuff the Gates Foundation has done. That man now thinks he runs the world.
Right.
Anytime you want to understand, like, kind of I think the direction that the world is heading in, just listen to these leaders. They're all saying the same thing. The build back better, build back better. They're all saying the same thing across the board.
Trudeau had said the Great Reset. Trudeau, and then everyone else saying it afterwards.
Absolutely. And then I got Trudeau just this week, saying that the vaccines basically, it's like, aren't enough. His words, the vaccines aren't enough. What is enough? What is enough?
Right.
And so, it's a major series of a lot of different things. Ultimately, and I hope to God I'm wrong, because every single person in my family has taken mRNA into their body. Ultimately, I think it could be a culling of the population. It could be liquid nanotechnology. I mean, there's so many different theories out there about it. I even have videos of Elon Musk saying that you can turn a human being into a butterfly.
Yes. So, with the right sequence.
Yeah, and so I can't really dive too far into it right now, but science has never gotten behind consciousness.
Right.
At least I don't think they have. So So I thought in the very beginning that mRNA somehow punctures consciousness. And I was just watching something recently, and I can send it to you. Unfortunately, I don't have the guy's name, but he's kind of he's a really well-known guy. Unfortunately, I can't think of his name right now, but he was talking about this talk that he was having with this woman that was doing some energy work on this woman that she had done energy work on before. And when she was working on her heart chakra, she said there was a disconnect. And that, it's really troubling. I and this is where I'm going to dive into the esoteric. This is where I have to be honest. If I'm
by all means, please.
I'm an Orion starseed. I know that. I went through like a pretty really serious spiritual awakening, and like I said, I could get into that too. But I've seen technological enslavement before. I see it. It resonates with me so deeply that I know it, and I'm starting to kind of get into what I would like to call like the ancient wisdom out there. Channeling all these things. I'm starting to listen to all these things and just learn about all the different gifts that we've been given. And a lot of different people are saying things that just make so much sense. And going back into my spiritual awakening, I have to be brutally honest with people. I had to ask some very serious questions. Ultimately, a spiritual awakening, in my opinion, is just trying to gain a deeper understanding of who you are and what this place is. And the best way to do that is just to look in the mirror and ask, just keep asking why. Everything, all the answers are inside here. And eventually I had to acknowledge the very, very real anger that I could still vividly remember as a child. And I said to my mom, I was like, Mom, did Dad beat the shit out of me? No, she's like, no, I can't stand your father. And I'll be honest, I don't talk to my father anymore. PTSD has made that relationship impossible. And that's another reason why I'm so just adamantly opposed to sending service members off to war. I mean, the dead, they're the only ones that know the end of war.
If I'm not mistaken, your father, you said about half an hour ago, your father served in Vietnam?
He was blown up, Purple Heart, 3 months in. He was the 25th Infantry Division.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I say he went to Vietnam and he never came home. I mean, he was my 39-year case study about post-traumatic stress disorder. But so I had to ask my mom, did this man beat the shit out of me? Like, and I asked my dad. I was like, I know you're not a fan of my mom. They're divorced. But I was like, did she ever do anything, that would have left some kind of anger stamp on me at a very young age? No. And so I was listening to a channeler one day. I've always been insanely drawn, just like this huge, like huge pull towards the constellation of Orion. It's something that I don't think I could even really describe in words. But and we talked a little bit about this as well. In our discussion.
Yeah.
So you could probably school me in that because I'm still learning. Because right now I'm like a damn dog that breaks out in the yard. I'm like, underground military bases.
Right. Right.
So feel free to jump in, but my understanding of Orion is that there was a really huge war there in a series of the different throughout the galaxy there, just and in some of the more advanced societies, technological enslavement was just going down all day, all night, and it was basically fucking with people's reincarnation cycles and permanently enslaving them. And this talk that this guy gave aligned with that perfectly. And all these different kind of places I go, and of course David Icke talks about kind of his theory behind this, but I'll go into here and it'll back up what's said here, and it connects here and it connects to the stuff here, and so it's like full circle connection wherever you go. But I absolutely 1,000,000% consider myself to be an Orion starseed. I don't know. I mean, Google these characteristics, and anybody that knows me knows that's me. It's me. And so I look at all the synchronicities.
I can see that.
Well, apparently Orion, and I got to tell you, when I gave my testimony, it was like the spiritual awakening, which I thought was kind of coming to a conclusion, like this whole other level opened up. And I mean, I went through this entirely new dark night of the soul. And I was like, I don't even, I'll be straight up with you, brother, real deal talk now. I don't even really associate with the name Adam anymore. I'm probably going to be changing my name pretty soon, straight up.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And it's hard because I can probably say these things on your podcast, and I hope this gets used against me one day. They're going to be like, he was on this guy's podcast talking about star seeds, and here's come Turtle Face being like, oh, I'll debate him now, he's crazy, which I'm ready for that. I have on standby my psychiatric psychological evaluation paperwork from not only a civilian therapist that spent extensive time with me, but also a VA therapist that spent extensive time with me. So I have put myself through the ringer. I've got a clean bill of health. I do have PTSD, but anybody that knows PTSD knows it's just about staying in front of your triggers.
Right.
And that's it. But yeah, Orion is my shit. I straight up will probably end up changing my name to Orion. I'm not even going to lie to you.
Wow, nice.
But yeah, and I haven't even said that really. I said that in one of my lives, and one person was like, "Why are you going to do that?" And I was like, I couldn't even begin to describe why.
Right.
If anybody gives me shit about it, I'm just going to be like, look, it's a free country. It resonates with me. And that's all she wrote. But yeah, I've seen this before. I know it with all my heart. And like I said, if you study an Orion starseed, they are ferociously competitive. They're very drawn to wisdom and truth.
Right.
And they really hang their hat on truth. They don't fuck around when it comes to it. They build their confidence based on their ability to present information. And so again, just all these little things aligning. And this is where I start to kind of kick into simulation theory. I'm like,
right.
If you looked at my life and just the shit that had to go, I'm nothing special, man. I'm just a dude. And I think we can all say this. I really do. I think we can all just say, everything leads us to where we are now. And Ram Dass, if we want to jump into the spiritual side of things, says that the game changes when you start to approach life as the perspective of kind of the witness to the story. And then when you start to kind of just open up your heart to the power of gratitude, gratitude, just a grateful heart, that is a miracle magnet. It's insane. So all these things just keep aligning. And I don't know, man. If anybody wants to call me crazy, then I guess I'll just I'll have to just carry that burden for the rest of my life.
I
Oh
did, I
well.
did, I did want to bring something else up as well too. You had said, and I can cut this part out after if you don't want it in there, but you had said the last time we spoke regarding the VA giving you some trouble. I don't want to get specific because that's your personal
Oh,
thing, but
let's go there.
okay,
Let's go there.
okay, awesome, awesome.
Um,
Yeah, I wanted to jump into that because to be honest, it kind of adds. I mean, I believe you, but it adds credibility to those that don't know you. I mean, you have the testimonies, you have the transcripts, you have the bibliographies, but what about the VA?
okay.
Yeah,
So this has been a fight that's been going on for 10 years. 10
right.
years.
And
Okay. So
sorry for those
this,
who
this,
sorry for
what's
the
up?
for just for the audience, for those who are not American, could you just quickly explain what the VA is?
So the VA is the Veterans Administration. I would like to say that they're a repulsive organization that just doesn't know what the hell they're doing. But some people out there say that they do all right. And I'll tell you this, the people that work at the VA facilities are salt of the earth great people. Most of them are former veterans. I'm talking about the people up in the ivory
So
tower, the assholes.
you're speaking of the apparatus, the system, not the people in there.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
It's terrible. But so the Veteran Administration, my attorney is drafting up a document for me right now. After they denied me, it took them 2 years. All I did, I went and I acknowledged several years ago. This was, I think, 2009. My father finally said to me, because I was just on this kind of like journey to kind of get better. And I started seeing the therapist, started digging into that. And my dad said, you don't have to get shot at or blown up to have PTSD. He's like, you were on a war zone. And he's just like, you buried over 1,000 people. You were an infantryman. A lot of people don't know this. Anytime bodies come in from war, they go through Dover. Somebody has to pull those bodies off the planes. I've done that a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just was on this kind of introspective journey, and I just started digging into myself, and I don't know, man. I get so lost just because I still think like things come to me like even like right now, like downloads have just been happening. But what was your last question again? Just
Oh,
refresh my
regarding
memory.
so no problem. So you already gave the explanation of what the VA is, just for those
Yeah.
that don't know. Your troubles with the VA.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
No
I got
problem.
really excited. I'm like,
No, brother, no problem at all, man. No problem.
yeah. So 2 years in, they said that they couldn't find any proof that I was at the Pentagon, that
Whoa,
I was even active duty Army.
are you?
Yeah. Yeah. So I went into the National
Sorry,
Guard for about,
sorry, as if you didn't exist.
that was their stance.
Holy shit.
The only records that they supported were my National Guard records. I was in the National Guard. I originally enlisted in the National Guard. I did one drill, and I just realized it was an artillery unit, and I wasn't following my heart. I wanted to be a soldier, and I wanted to do it full time. And I'm not saying that anybody in the National Guard isn't a soldier. I take that back. That's not what I meant. I wanted to do it hardcore all the way full time. That's what I
I think you're just trying to say you wanted to be a soldier more than any other position.
Absolutely. I wanted to be a grunt. I wanted to be active duty Army. I didn't want to be in the Guard. The Guard's more of just kind of a contingency unit that's ready for any type of thing. They do the once a month, 2 weeks out of the year. They're just kind of that's that kind of in that kind of supporting role. But the National Guard's awesome. I'm not taking anything away from them. I just want to state that for the record. But I went in and active duty, the whole 9 yards. I've got all my military paperwork in the other room. After I filed my claim, I had already used
Brother, I'm so sorry. I just want to say to the audience, I can personally attest that everything he's saying is true with regards to his military history and background. So please go on.
Yeah, I was going to say my military records. I put kind of them all over my Instagram, but I expended my entire GI Bill, my Montgomery GI Bill, their stance after it took them 2 years to say, well, we're denying your claim just because we can only find your National Guard paperwork.
Sorry, could you explain to those who don't know what a GI Bill is?
So the first year that you're in the Army, I believe it's probably changed, but you basically every single, I think, paycheck, you put in a little bit of money.
Right.
And I think it's just the first year. And after you get out of the Army, you basically have this nice huge chunk of change. You can basically go get a college degree for free. So I think it's $50,000,
Wow.
which the cost of education is now like, like that's a whole other gripe.
Right.
But so 2 years, they told me they couldn't basically prove that I was at the Pentagon, so they denied all my claims. So I ponied up and got an attorney, and we started the process of basically filing appeals. Well, I
Right.
have all my paperwork. Well, this is where I wanted to see just what the fuck was up. I made a formal request for my military records, and the file is so thin. There's no DD 214. That's like like this is what this person did in the military. Like you have to like look at your DD 214 before you get out and okay everything. Like they
So
didn't
for
have
those who don't know, the DD 214 is like your main resume, so to speak.
everything. Yeah,
Right.
all your awards, decoration, everything. They nobody in the government can find one of those. I've got, of course, them, but they sent me a little bit of my file contains a little bit of paperwork from the MEPS, a few medical things, some National Guard stuff, and like some recruiting paperwork. Everything else is gone.
And what's
And
their
I'm very proud of my military record, man. I knew I wasn't going to stay in, but the best and the fastest way through the military is to just get in and kick its ass and just do the best you can. And I did that, and I stand behind my military record, man. I gave that the country my all for 4 years.
I
So
I I was gonna say what's how can what was sorry, what was the VA's response? I mean, has it been taken to court to this extent yet? I mean,
oh
when
yeah,
you have
so
your DD 214, but they say it doesn't exist. What's
it's
the
it's it's been in an appeal status for a long time. Well, I ordered that paperwork. I got one thing. Well, I didn't finish. So it says in this letter that I got in that first request, if you feel as if you're missing anything, call this number and make it, go through that. So I did that as well. That literally the same thing. Like so, yeah, incomplete military file, no medical records whatsoever from my unit, which scares the shit out of me because all the time, anybody that was in my company will tell you that all the time. They'd be like, the medics are here, go downstairs and get shots. And everybody loved to fuck with me because I couldn't take shots standing up because I'd start to pass out, which I'm covered in ink. I, and I, even today, if I am standing up during a shot, I pass out. So, of
right?
course, my squad leader, when I was a private, like, you have to stand up, and I'm just like, God, you motherfucker. But so I've always been kind of afraid. It's just like, what fate am I going to meet? I mean, when you're in the military, you are a piece of property.
Mhm.
What am I going to do? So that's gone with the wind.
Right.
All the awards and decorations, everything that I had as far as proof that I was the Pentagon. You make a formal request, you're not going to get any of that stuff. It's not there. So
Wow.
yeah, so I've been going back and forth, and I don't want to incriminate my attorney. He's a nice guy, but if you ask a barber if you need a haircut, of course they're going to say yes.
Right.
So I didn't, he was recommended to me, but he just didn't. I don't think he knows kind of what he's doing. And so
Mm.
a couple of months ago, I finally just took it upon myself to go and get with the DAV, and I got finally somebody. This is what they do, the Disabled American Veterans Organization. They're a nonprofit group, but so I finally, in May, have my final hearing, and I've got every shred of evidence to back every single claim, and it's going to be funny to see what happens there. But I've got documents, I've got it all. But that's the United States Army's official stance, and my attorney is he's writing up a very detailed letter about this process because anytime anybody wants to lean on the government, be it for anything, any semblance of confidence in any kind of national healthcare system or anything, I'm like, you want to hear about my experience? Like, you want these people running your healthcare? Like, are you fucking mad? Like, these
Right.
people think that I wasn't even in the army for crying out loud. Like, yeah.
Mm. Is
So
there anybody else from your company at the time that is going through the same thing that you know of, or has gone through, like the VA denied their exist that oh yes, eh? Wow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, the VA, I mean, my father, he was in Vietnam. He was blown up. He was like 60%, and eventually it took him 9 years to get upgraded to 100% service-connected disability. But yes, the VA stance is deny until they die. Just deny, deny until they die. And like I said, I hate to shit all over that organization because there's good people there. And I, I just, I don't know. I mean, can anybody honestly say that if it took 10 years, over 10 years to do a very simple job, that they should still be in that position? I mean,
Right.
it's appalling.
There's only
So
one job I could think of where you could be wrong every day and still keep it, which is being a weather person. That's
yeah,
that's the only
yeah.
like I can think of. But so they're, just to clarify one time over, they're basically saying you never served your DD 214, is it, if I'm not mistaken?
DD 214. Yep. If I make a formal request right now, and I've made two of them, the United States government cannot get me a DD 214. And so I thought there's a resource out there. Of course, it costs like $100. I still might do it, but they guarantee that they can get you a DD 214. Your DD 214. And I'm kind of like, I want to put this
Interesting.
to the test.
Interesting. Now,
But
sorry.
no, I was gonna say, so yeah, that's one interesting thing. I was hoping Mitchie would fall. I hope he. I'm gonna call him Turtle Face or Mitchie. I'm always gonna tease him like he's listening. I
I
hope he's
wanna
listening.
I wanna thank you, because I was just gonna transition to that. I wanted you to explain to the people listening and watching, or that will be listening and watching, why Mitch McConnell of all the politicians. For those who don't know, actually, if you want to explain it yourself, you decided to
Yeah,
debate him.
yeah. So long story short, and I don't support political parties. I don't trust either Republicans or Democrats. And I don't really, support people that align with those parties.
I can
I'll listen to them. I won't disrespect them, but I'm sure as hell not gonna trust them. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, she has certainly made some comments about some things. Well, when she was kind of catching hell from everybody, Mitch McConnell basically said, "Well, people that think that the Pentagon was never that a plane could hit the Pentagon and blah 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 blah, those people aren't living in reality." And my fucking antenna went through the roof because I lived in Kentucky for 13 years. That's where I originally started my VA claim. And so I was going to be like, "Oh, you're some kind of expert. Let me tell you about the system." That guy's been in government since 1984. He's been a senator for that for ages.
right.
So I wanted to be like, let me, I wanted to draw him in, and then, just all I'm doing is basically just pulling the information that's everywhere and all the testimony that's everywhere, and then dropping it and being like, "Oh, by the way, tell me why your state is such a failure as far as the VA system is concerned there, because here we are." But yeah, Mitchie didn't take the bait.
He's it's interesting with that, yeah, because he's an interesting politician. And I can understand and respect the fact that you don't abide by any political party. It's more
I
so,
can't.
right, it's more so what you believe to be the I guess we could say the appropriate response to something, right? Sort of like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a Republican or a Democrat pulling the troops out of Afghanistan. It could be anyone, as long as the troops come home safely.
Absolutely. I just point blank want somebody in a political position that's going to act like a leader and unite and not divide. I think that I could very easily point out 20 years of very calculated division. It's not hard to see, and it's only gotten worse. And we talk about what COVID is. We were kind of talking about that, but do you find it at all odd that COVID naturally happened the when it did? In the political climate that we're in, the election fraud shit, the debt. People don't. I one time read an economist state that there was this point where the debt, our U.S. debt, had like a no turning back point, and COVID hit like right when we were there, and there's like boom, like all these policies, these things, and so
Right.
you know, it's just, yeah, I cannot in good faith, after seeing what I saw, I cannot trust anybody that associates with the Republican or the Democrat Party. And that's why I just got so discouraged. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I'm not going to make any bones about that. And I haven't been a fan of his since 2015. Straight up in the art of the deal, I think he kind of admits that he's a Jesuit, word for word.
Oh, I didn't know
Um,
that.
oh yeah, yeah. We can
Wow.
talk about that, but yeah, presidents are elected. They are not, or they're selected. They are not elected. And
Right.
yeah, he self-identifies. I think he does at least. He basically says, and I can send you a screenshot of this clip. He basically says, "I met the Jesuits at Fordham, and I had great respect for them. I had great respect for the Jesuits that ran the school." And then he kind of says in the same page, he's like, I wanted to test myself against the best, so I left Fordham, and I went to, he got to the Ivy, went to Ivy League, and Dad gives him $1 billion, turns it into $1 billion. He's in the club, and believe me, I would love for Donald Trump, of all fucking people, Donald Trump, to be this like mythical unicorn that was just placed perfectly into this New York environment. I mean, let's be real, the globalist elite, I think they recruit people out of college. I mean, there's a lot of people that leave college and then all of a sudden, Bill Gates, Zuck, all these people, it's like they pop up and it's like, what? But
apparently there's I spoke about this about a month ago with someone else I had on the show, Monica, and apparently there's like a legitimate filter process. Like they take the ones who they take the elites kids and they group them all together and they kind of filter them through who's best for this, who's best for that, and then as long as they're not a screw up in terms of like getting into drugs and stuff, they can pretty much mold them the way that they want.
100%, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I would love for him to be this perfectly inserted chess piece and all these generals. And, I would love to say that, the white hats are out there doing these things, which, I do see shit that doesn't make sense. Right now, I'm telling you what, I don't think the United States is constitutionally aligned. I don't think that what's happening in my country is aligning with the Constitution. So, yeah, it's crazy. But anybody that studies, kind of truth and gets into the Jesuits is going to know that those people are the worst. They're the worst. And there's a guy, I can't remember his name. I'll try to think of it in a little bit. But this guy studies the Jesuits hardcore. And yeah, I've just heard. Oh, it's David. I'll think of it. But yeah, they're the worst. And who would write, I mean, in your book, I mean, why would you even say, like, why couldn't you just be like, I just wanted to leave Fordham. I want to go challenge myself. He specifically says, I met the Jesuits who ran the school. I'm like, what?
Right.
So, but if you study spiral dynamics, I don't know if you're familiar with that concept, the red spiral dynamic. You don't want a person, that's Donald Trump. He's got a little hint of orange, but you don't want somebody with a red spiral dynamic leading your country when you have nuclear missiles and you have all these things. So,
sorry, could you explain, brother? Could you explain to the audience a spiral dynamic, if that's cool?
I could kind of, I think, touch on it a little bit. So there was kind of a way of looking at a person and kind of putting them into a category, a color, based on their mannerisms and kind of the red spiral dynamic is just, I mean, you can look it up. It's Donald Trump through and through. It's kind of that, Tony Soprano kind of figure that, it just, right. His way or the highway, absolutely opposed to anybody, coming and challenging them in any certain way. Just, yeah, if you YouTube red spiral dynamic, you're going to see boatloads of information. That's just one of those things, I've kind of hinted on a little bit, but I don't know if you ever get into actualize.org. You ever watch any of his stuff on YouTube?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Leo's got great stuff on spiral dynamics. So, but that's Donald Trump. You don't want that person in office. And, with everything that's happening, all he keeps talking about is I did this, the 401ks, the economy. Well, it's like, well, yeah, the Fortune 500 companies are ran by the billionaires. So you keep, yeah, if they're doing all right, then, okay, yeah, trickle down, everybody's happy, their 401ks, this, that, whatever. Patriot Act still in swing. You know, all these things still in swing. The national debt still skyrocketing.
So
So
what you're advocating for is you want to see a change in the system instead of a different face, basically.
there's a great quote. I think his name is Buckminster Fuller. It just talks about, you know, how do you change? I'm going to paraphrase. How do you change? I know his name was Buckminster. I'm pretty sure it was Fuller, but I'll look it up while we're here. But how do you change a system that's you know, jacked? You basically just have to create a new system and make the old one obsolete. You know, we are upside down financially. We're bankrupt. You know, and they keep talking about all of these different stimulus packages and putting all these trillions of dollars into this and all these trillions of dollars into that. And, you know, Project Veritas just uncovered, you know, that CNN exec or whoever he is titled just talking about how, you know, the new big thing is going to be as big as COVID. It's just the green initiatives that are out there. And, you know, how much money is that going to cost? And yeah, the United States is being bankrupted. It's being destroyed. You know, touching on COVID a little bit, you know, we kind of went there. That's the good thing about our conversations, I found, is they kind of just go everywhere, but that's kind of a sign of good communication. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, Klaus Schwab, I mean, the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset, I mean, it's all aligning. And I think that, you know, history is going to put Bill Gates, Donald Trump, you know, Klaus, all these world leaders, Zuckerberg, all of them, I think they're going to put them up on the Hitler shelf one day. And to be quite frank with you, they're going to be upgraded. There's going to be a whole new level. And like I said, I would love for them to do this.
Sorry, you're saying like a whole new level of depravity is what you're saying.
Yeah, point blank. You know, I mean, just a couple days ago, I almost got emotional. We were dropping off some pizzas. My girlfriend's son, he has you know, Boy Scouts, and you know, we were at this house, and this guy that was buying pizza, you know, is an old family friend, and I felt terrible for this man. He said, "Did you guys get a vaccine?" And we said no. And I don't care what anybody does. Get one. Just get one. Just don't make me get one.
Right,
you know,
right. Yes.
You know, so he looked at her and he said, "I just heard an article that said I'm going to be dead in 2 years." And you could see the fear on his face, like the legitimate fear. And I mean, people don't understand, you know, this is gene therapy. You can't even call it a vaccine. You can't. You just can't. The animals were all killed. You know, we are I say we, the people that are taking this are the animal trials. We are in the animal trial phase. The Nuremberg Code is being fucking trampled. And you know what the average response when I say that is? You know what the average person says? What's the Nuremberg Code?
Oof.
No offense. I'm not trying to. Here's the thing: if any of your audience doesn't know, that's not a fault of yours. I think that's a fault of our educational system.
That's why I responded in that way, because it's important people know. Did you want to very quickly explain to those who don't know the Nuremberg Code?
I can give it a pretty good explanation. You might, if you want to jump in on it too. But basically, post Hitler, one of Hitler's big time doctors, I believe, was performing some really sensationally fucked up experiments on people. And so the Nuremberg Code became the gold standard of scientific and medical experimentation. And there's 10 points, I believe. If you go to my Instagram, you can pull it up. I've got the Nuremberg Code right there. But we are in a trial phase until 2023, right? So experiments. So, you know, I've heard a lot of different things out there. I mean, this is a scaffolding operating system. I've heard terrible things about the ingredients. I've heard terrible things about even the PCR test, which Kerry Mullis, I believe is his name, Kerry Mullins or Mullis, one of the two.
I think Mullins, I think it was.
Yeah, Mullins, that's it. I believe that COVID was bullshit since day one. I know what happens when we fight invisible enemies, so I never really paid much attention to it until really the last few months. But I've got video footage of that guy saying that the PCR test isn't even supposed to be used in the function that it's being used right now, and it can't diagnose anything. And I've even got video footage of him saying that Bill Gates wouldn't debate him, that the University of South Carolina dean wanted him, not Bill Gates, I apologize, Anthony Fauci. ooh, Bill Gates. I get so fired up. I want to just go in on him. But yeah, Anthony Fauci, he was invited down to debate. Anthony Fauci, the dean of the University of South Carolina, wanted to debate on something, and Fauci turned it down. And he even went so far in this video, it's on my page again, go to Awakened Adam, of saying that basically Fauci was a front man. He just doesn't know shit. I mean, he basically just, because he's a front man, I mean, I think he's the highest paid, federal employee, government employee that we have. I mean, I've got video footage of him saying, wear the mask, and video footage of him saying, don't wear the masks. There's a paper that was put out, I believe, that he wrote about the dangers of mask wearing, proven from other pandemics, from back in the day. Don't even get me started, brother.
I like what you said there about 5 minutes ago when you said, I know what it's like to fight an invisible enemy. I would imagine you're referring to your experience at the Pentagon there.
Well, and I'll tell you this is no joke. And this is going to probably, it's going to be a telehearing, but I'm going to point blank say to these VA people, I witnessed a false flag operation. I can prove it. I believe I have all the overwhelming evidence to show that. And I want you to know that for the last 20 years, that's another reason. If I'm just going to be real with you, Dave, my dad, my biological father, he said some horrific shit to me, but if I'm a first responder at the Pentagon, and he knows like how much time, effort, and energy I put into this, when he laughs in my face, like, yeah, I mean, it hurts. And so for a lot of years, dude, I've been carrying this, and I've got people that were in my life a long time ago. My mom would testify this. Of course, my mom would try to get me off of murder, so I can't really rely on her. But I've got former friends and business associates that I became close with, and I just in topics of conversation. Oh, you were in the military, yeah. And I looked for reasons to bring it up for a long time, and I would say to people, and I call it the fluoride stare, just.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So, what are you doing this weekend? It's like,
yeah, I know what you're talking. Yeah, exactly.
That's why. Who knows? In the end, we could talk about what resonates. We could talk about all these things, but who knows where we're going and what we're doing. I think we're all just walking each other home, and really the purpose here is infinite love. But we're here to experience the great things, but we're here to also experience the not so great things. And we all have a soul contract, I believe. It just, I've heard one time a spiritual teacher say, if it resonates within you, then you know it to be true. And for me, the longest time was just, how do I present this information? And I always said since the very beginning, if there ever comes a point when these people being the government, be it a state government entity, nationally, whatever, local, if anybody tries to mandate vaccines, that's going to be my kicking off point, where I'm going to come forward and just be like, don't trust the government. I mean, let's talk about all the ways the government has just been terrible over years, with the Tuskegee Airmen. That's a terrible story. Interning Japanese people during World War II. Abysmally failing across the board.
I mean,
every way,
not for anything, but the Gulf of Tonkin.
Oh, I mean, that my father, to this day, and this has happened since he was blown up, has a screeching. I think it's is that tonight? It's called tinnitus, or I believe it's a constant ringing of the ear.
Right.
And I one time put a kind of a simulation on. They have a simulation to know like what that sounds like. I was at a hearing place, and I point blank said to my dad, I would have killed myself. There's no question. But he's kind of learned how to kind of drown it out. But yeah, Gulf of Tonkin especially. I really want to get into that because I can tell you, like, PTSD and just the horrific effects of war. I think even if you don't even go to war, if you just serve your country in that capacity, if you're in a training environment where your job is to kind of close with and destroy the enemy, or be a part of that cog in the wheel that fucking kills people, that changes you. And so, I've been living with my dad for all, for a lot of years, and I love him to pieces. I say it to his face, and I have said it to his face. He went to Vietnam, he never came home, and so really, dude, my main objective here is to just show that the elite use war. That's probably the biggest thing that they use. It turns so many other cogs in the wheel,
Right.
but they use war. And I just think about the absolutely immeasurable costs between
Yeah.
humans and just generational trauma. Um, I mean, all the stories you don't know about of alcohol abuse, of spousal abuse. I heard that it's gone down. I mean, people don't realize that. I believe it used to be. I know it was 22, but I heard that number has decreased to 20. But 20 veterans, even if it's 20, it's one too many, are
Right.
committing suicide each and every single day.
Whoa.
Um, yeah, that's a real deal statistic. And so
20,
when
20 veterans a day.
Yeah, well, I know for a fact, it used to be in the last couple of years it was 22, but like I said, who knows how you can quantify that? But it's an average, I believe, around 20 a day now. Yeah, the last I heard.
And now I can understand your frustration with the VA specifically, because they're supposed to take care of the, yeah, I see what you're
If
saying.
if I ever ran for politics, I would make some really solid promises, but I would make some really also solid goals. And one of those goals would be, I don't care if you serve for 1 year or if you serve for 30 years. If you sign on the dotted line to basically defend this country at all costs, you get free healthcare. Like, because
Mm.
you're gonna come away from that with some changes. That's just the way that I see it. There's no way you can't go through the military experience and not be in some way, shape, or form changed. Just even psychologically, it's just it's the nature of the business. I mean, I
Right.
don't know how to do it.
Well, brother, I just want to say we're coming up onto 2 hours. I might have to end this soon, but is there
Yeah.
anything you wanted to touch on before, anything specific? It doesn't have to be with, it doesn't have to do with what we just spoke about. Is there anything you wanted to clear the air on? The floor is yours before we wrap this up.
With all of my heart, I believe I am going to bring down a U.S. president. And let me also say this, and this is another thing that I'm going to say every single time I talk. I don't care if it's in person or if it's like this. I don't condone violence, period. If we're going to beat them, we've got to beat them at their game, and then we have to legally beat them at their game, and that involves exposure. And so, who knows the direction of where we're heading? There's a lot of people that get into the weeds about what's going to happen once the weather starts getting cold again.
Mm.
mRNA, and who knows? There's another tidal wave. I haven't even gotten to talk about this. None of my followers know about this, but for about 5 years now, I have been kind of low key studying how our country heals from racism, and I got really involved in a lot of different ways in West Louisville, in a community that was just going through some terrible times. I saw what was happening in Ferguson because I'm from St. Louis. That's where I'm at right now. And, everybody's got a theory on that. But, I saw a community that was burning. And as a former infantryman, I also understand the perspective of what a police officer goes through and how that can escalate like that. But so that's why I've been heavily involved in that movement as well, and not so much as I used to be. But I'm just trying to learn how to help people heal from that. But yeah, I could ramble on and on and on and on, and I can just tell you, you guys, don't put your faith and trust into the government.
Mm.
You got to get involved. Apathy is not going to do it. It's just not. They have us into a position. It's I think been by design to where they're like, we got them to a point where they don't want to fucking, the Americans are like, fuck it, I'm done, and the politicians
Right.
are like, yes, yes, we got the diehards, but everybody else is kind of focused elsewhere. And so, we've got so much distracting us. Most people just want to lead a good life, go home, nuke their supper, hang out with their friends and family, and do good things. And,
Right.
I have a really tough time believing that collectively we are as divided as the media and the press and everybody would have you believe. And so just,
I agree. I agree with that. I agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just wherever this reaches, just know that one person can make a difference. And right now, people just need to understand what's happening around them, and that involves taking the time and the effort and doing your own research. You know, even everything that I've said right now, the world's gonna know it pretty soon. I'm compiling every bit of evidence that I can. And like I said, I presented it to this guy in the truth community, and he said, "Yep, we're going to do, I think, 3 shows. We're going to do a YouTube live, we're going to do an Instagram live, and then we're going to do like a conversation that's well done, and you can put graphics, and we're just going to present everything, videos, everything. And ultimately, I want that third video because this guy has the resources financially and the team to do it. I can't fuck with technology. I don't even know how to I made literally a decision about 3 years ago to sell my TV. I don't even own a TV. I don't really own very much as far as technology goes, but I'm committed now to this, and I'm going to team up with this guy. And I mean, he was funny. We were talking. He goes, "Oh, Dreamwear just texted me." I'm like, this is the guy I needed to link up with. So this guy is very well connected. So I'm going to be a target, you guys, but I'm calling it here, and I'm calling it right now. I don't know how they've gotten away with it for this long, but if it costs me my life, I'm going to use knowledge, and I'm going to use testimony, and I'm going to use absolutely solid, unshakable evidence to show that the United States is committed and has been doing it. But specifically, George Bush and Dick Cheney were at the top of a pyramid that's been committing some atrocities, and I'm not going to stand for it. I don't care if it costs me my life. It is what it is. I'm not trying to talk big and tough. Real deal talk. I've got some guides. We all have our own guides. I don't know how spiritual you are, but my guides have basically told me that this is going to get dangerous, and that's just something I accept. I made a video recently talking about how I had to have that conversation with my mom.
Right.
I told her when I went home to get that last document, I said, "Listen, my life's about to change. I really firmly believe that. So I don't know where that goes, but if not now, when?"
Right.
The Nuremberg Code's being trampled. The government is tyrannical. The media is propaganda. I mean, every single big tech. I mean, they're trying to inject us with something that is going to change the game forever. If not now, when? So, soul contract time. I don't care about money. That's another thing about Orion Star Seeds. They don't give a fuck about money. I've never cared about money, and nobody's going to believe me when I say that, but it's true. But as long as my bills are paid, I got some food, I got a roof, I'm golden. You can fit everything I own into a vehicle, a car, a Honda. Literally, less is more. But
that's a great way to look at it. And let me just say too as well, you're more than welcome to come back on again. And at the same time, not only that, you're more than welcome to share with me whatever you like, documents, pictures. If you ever want to, I would very gladly put it up for my audience to see as well. Just know that too. Very, very glad, without a doubt. But could you please tell my audience where they can find you? Social media, that kind of stuff.
Yep. So Awakened Adam, just like it sounds, one word, just AWAKENED Adam at Instagram. That's the funny thing is that's my healing journal. I started it about 2.5, 3 years ago. It's my healing journal, and now it's my weapon to bring down the elite. I've got a YouTube channel where my testimony is. You can link on it. You can totally get to it through there. But I will be the first to admit, when I came out with my testimony and the whole new, kind of spiritual door showed me another chapter, I had to very quickly, slam on the gas when it came to kind of understanding what was happening around us, understanding the possibilities where we're going. And I kind of talked to you a little bit, like I said, about deep underground military bases. But so I've just been in this kind of nonstop place. And so I need to get more organized with my social media. So I'm going to be launching a variety of accounts, backup accounts across the board. And I should also say my backup Instagram is Awakened Orion. So don't be surprised if I show you a driver's license with that name on there soon. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Awesome, man. Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much, man, for coming on. I'm sure the audience will absolutely enjoy this, and we would all be honored to have you on again if you'd ever like to come back.
I'm just saying, if you want to go do karate in the garage, brother, we can do karate in the garage. I'm always going to come back anytime you invite me. But let me also end on this, you guys. This doesn't go anywhere. Please follow, but you have to share the information. Anything that I say when it comes to 9/11 in the coming weeks is going to have to be supported by evidence. And believe me, I'm going to have a whole team of people that are going to be helping me now. It falls on its face. And people, and you probably understand this, but the power of sharing, it's incredible how far and wide in this digital age things can go. And who knows how much longer we're going to have access to these things, these phones and the internet and all this shit.
It's true.
Who knows how far they're going to go.
Exactly. Well, brother,
share.
Thank you. Exactly. It's true on so many levels, but thank you so much, man, for coming on. And thank you to everybody who listened or watched this.
Always a pleasure, brother. Anything you need, I'm always in, and I'm always here to promote you too. So don't be shy about asking, telling me. Don't ask. Be like, listen, you're one of the nicest guys. Be like, listen, I need you to do this. Okay, Dave, I got you.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Cheers.